It's after 6. I look up and get it backwards. Anyway, I wanted to let you know that we're going to have some different way of operating tonight. We'll be on YouTube and on Zoom due to some technical difficulties. So at this time, I would like to read the land acknowledgement. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the lands we are located on are the unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments remove the Wiyot and other indigenous people from the lands and threaten to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. So with that, we'd like to stand, if you are willing to, for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. May we please have roll call?
Mayor Stillman,
Present.
Vice Mayor White,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
Councilmember Atkins Salazar is absent, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you. So under ceremony matters, the first item we have is a proclamation and recognition of Sunshine Week, March 19th through the 20th, 2025. It'll be read by Councilmember White. Thank you.
Whereas Sunshine Week is a national initiative to start a dialogue on the importance of open government and freedom of information, and whereas Sunshine Week is a nonpartisan initiative whose supporters are conservative, liberal, and from every group in between. Sunshine Week participants include print, broadcast, online news media, civic groups, libraries, nonprofits, schools, and others interested in the public's right to know. And whereas James Madison, the father of our federal Constitution, wrote that the consent of the governed requires that people be able to arm themselves with the power with knowledge gives. And whereas an open government is vital to establishing and maintaining the people's trust in their government and in the government's ability to serve people effectively. The free flow of information keeps government processes honest and robust. Sunshine Week empowers people to play an active role in their government at all levels and strengthens their access to information that makes their lives better and their communities stronger. And whereas protecting every person's right to access public records and government meetings is a high priority, and whereas the League of Women Voters of Humboldt County supports the goals of Sunshine Week and provides residents with nonpartisan education through public forums, publications, presentations, assists voters with voter registration, and encourages informed participation in government. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby recognizes March 19th through 2025 as Sunshine Week and encourages all residents to educate themselves about the government processes that affect their lives. Dated March 19th, 2025 by Alexandra Stillman, our mayor, and this proclamation will be accepted by Julie Kelly, president of the Women League of Voters. Do we have her?
But Julie isn't present here at the moment. And they do have an event tomorrow evening, and so if you're willing, I'll take it to that event, since I'm a member of the league. Thank you. So this next proclamation is in recognition of Tsunami Preparedness Week, March 22nd through the 30th, and Councilmember Schaefer will read it.
Whereas California's long coastline, its proximity to earthquake faults, and its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire make it vulnerable to tsunamis, and whereas 46 tsunamis have been recorded on California's north coast, including 5 that caused damage, and whereas 11 residents of Delmarva County, California were killed by the tsunami generated by the 1964 Alaska earthquake, and 1 resident of Delmarva County, California was killed by the tsunami generated in the 2011 Japan earthquake. Whereas a tsunami warning was declared for Humboldt County 5 minutes after the December 5th, 2024 7.0 earthquake, and disseminated through the EAS and wireless emergency alert system, causing a mixed response with many schools and other organizations successfully evacuating, but others overreacting and causing massive traffic jams. And whereas tsunamis caused by underwater landslides as well as offshore earthquakes can occur at any time and with little warning. And whereas education, awareness, and communication are fundamental to saving lives in a tsunami event. And whereas the state of California has declared March 22nd through 30th, 2025 Tsunami Preparedness Week, and whereas the city of Arcata encourages all residents living, working, or recreating within a tsunami hazard zone to participate in a countywide evacuation drill at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, March 26th, 2025. Therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata do hereby proclaim their support for tsunami education and evacuation drills and encourage agencies, businesses, and other organizations to test their ability to receive and respond to a tsunami coming from nearby or far away, and hereby recognize the week of March 22nd through 30th, 2025 as Tsunami Preparedness Week. It's dated March 19th, signed by our Mayor, Alex Stillman, and I'm going to present this to our own council member and disaster preparedness guru, Kimberly White.
And I hope you can, I have a limp going on, so I'm going to read it from here. There are many ways to get involved in the Tsunami Preparedness Week. Our local Redwood Coast Tsunami Working Group has a plethora of activities. So tomorrow, March 20th, there is a tsunami, su spaghetti, su supper, and su science, and that's a hard one. But yeah, understanding tsunamis on the North Coast, know your tsunami zone. So there will be a wonderful dinner at the Humboldt Grange on Humboldt Hill. Doors open at 5, dinner at 5:30, and talks at 6:30. And this event is free, open to the public, dinner by donation. On Monday, March 24th, there is an Ollie lecture, and it will be discussing our response for the December 5th, 2024 earthquake with Lori Dangler from 1 to 2:30. Also on Monday, March 24th, Lori Dangler will be presenting what happened on December 25th at the Natural History Museum at 5:30. And then next Wednesday, March 26th at 11 a.m., there is going to be a North Coast tsunami drill. The Office of Emergency Services will issue test alerts encouraging the public to practice their earthquake and tsunami plans. So if you are in the tsunami zone, practice your evacuation plan by walking out of the tsunami zone, or if you are not in the tsunami zone, stay put. You do not need to evacuate. However, take time to think about what you would do after a damaging earthquake. Remember that dangerous tsunami waves can last a long time, up to 24 to 48 hours after the first wave. In a real event, do not enter the tsunami hazard area until you have received notice that it is safe to do so. You can go to the Redwood Coast Tsunami Working Group's website for more information, and you can also register to participate. The week will culminate on Saturday, March 29th with a tsunami preparedness workshop from 11 to 2 at the Manila Community Center. On 1611 Peninsula Drive. And finally, in November 2024, CUNA, Comunidad Unidad del Norte de Arcata, a bilingual organization in North Arcata, opened up a Resilient Hub at 4700 Valley East Boulevard. The CUNA Resilient Hub will offer assistance in the event of a disaster and will include such things as backup power during a disaster, coordination of communication, emergency food, water distribution, a place to plug in your devices, including medical devices, and a place to let your friends and family know you are safe, as well as next steps. The CUNA Resilient Hub will provide emergency support immediately after a catastrophic event, and during non-disaster times, it is a bilingual training facility for disaster preparedness. CUNA has held various bilingual classes, workshops in disaster preparedness to include several disaster preparedness academies, several American College of Surgeons Stop the Bleed courses where participants received a $200 backpack filled with disaster preparedness supplies, sponsored by Blue Lake Rancheria Office of Emergency Services. Also, CUNA held its second annual Prepared Block Party for disaster preparedness with many organizations involved in disaster preparedness tabling and offering resources. And of course, our very own local earthquake and tsunami expert, Lori Dangler, was our guest speaker. There were raffles giving out hundreds of dollars of emergency preparedness supplies. Nobody went home empty-handed. More than 150 participants attended the second annual preparedness event. So stay tuned. There will be a third disaster preparedness event later this year. And then finally, CUNA was proud to host the Redwood Coast Tsunami Working Group's very first meeting of the new year at the new Resilient Hub. So be prepared It is not whether a disaster will strike, it is a matter of when. That's all I got.
The next item on our agenda is reports by commissions and committees, and I see there are none. We'll go on to staff reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to city business and shall not request or lead to action by the council at this meeting. And number A is receive an update from the Director of Community Development, David Loya, regarding the city's manufactured housing opportunities and revitalization, known as MORE program. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here also with Jennifer Dart, our Deputy Director for Community Development, to help fill in any gaps. And yeah, I'm happy to present to you tonight the city's Manufactured Housing and Opportunity Revitalization Program, or MORE program. The work that I'm presenting to you tonight is largely led by my colleague Nick Brichta, the Community Development Specialist in our office who's handling this program, taking in the applications, working with the applicants to make sure that they have complete applications, and also working with the contractors to make sure that they understand the scope of work. And so I just wanted to take a moment and give him credit for all of the hard work that he's doing. I'm going to start, and again, this is a pretty high-level overview, and we're happy to answer any questions if we can, if you have them. But let's start with a little bit of background. The MORE program is a state-funded program, and I mention that just so that you'll know that the funding associated with that is secure and stable. It's not going anywhere. There's no clawbacks happening with that. And really what it's designed for is for mobile home repair and replacement. To be eligible, the mobile homes have to be inside of a mobile home park. And so some folks have a mobile home on their single-family lot. Those would not be eligible. They have to be inside of a approved mobile home park. Furthermore, the mobile home has to be owner occupied. And so several of the mobile homes in our jurisdiction are rented. They're owned by the park owner and they rent to families, and that's a great way to get affordable housing, but those would not be eligible. Lastly, in terms of the program requirements, these are for households earning less than 80% area median income. Those are typically considered lower income households for our jurisdiction. A little more on the background, we have about $3 million in this award, so it was a pretty hefty award. We're estimating, and this is a little bit of guesswork because we don't know how much each project will cost, but we're estimating we'll be able to assist a total of 36 households with this $3 million. The application process opened in November, and we've had 46 applications to date. I want to draw you back to that 36 number. We're quote unquote oversubscribed, but we're continuing to take applications because not all of these applications are going to be eligible. And we currently have 23 that are working through the process. They've been awarded. We're moving through the process of trying to get them permitted and approved and have loan docs and all of that ready. Our funding expires next year in August, so we basically have about a year to spend this $3 million. And staff is working to get these processed as quickly as possible so we can meet that. But that's a pretty short turnaround to spend $3 million. The funds are granted to the homeowners after 3 years. So if they've been in the house for 3 years after we've made the award, that loan converts to a grant. If they turn around and sell their home in less time than that, then they need to repay the funds that we loan them. But otherwise, these are grant funds. And this is really important for folks to know. When you talk to folks about this program, emphasize to them that it's grant funding, okay? Some people have been resistant to apply because they don't feel like they can make a payment on a loan. They don't have to make a payment on a loan. And as soon as they've owned the home for 3 years, it's granted. I got that point across, right? It's grant funds, okay. Okay, so it's a relatively new program. We're dealing with relatively new staff, and they really want us to focus on health and safety and code violations. The intent here was to first start with units that had been flagged by HCD inspectors as being substandard in some way and that they have a code violation that they have to correct. We don't have a whole lot of those in our jurisdiction, partly because once the HCD inspector flags your home, it's flagged and you have to do something about it, and that could lead to you losing housing. This image is a roof of one of the homes that we're working to assist. This isn't just a stock image. These are the kinds of conditions that some folks are living in. And so this is a critical program when it comes to remedying these health and safety code violations. I don't know for certain that this one actually would have been flagged or was flagged by HCD, but certainly by the condition of that roof, it's eligible for that. Their secondary concern is accessibility and energy efficiency improvements. The way the program is set up, though, you have to have health and safety code violations before you can get to those accessibility and energy efficiency type loans first. And so we're working through those, and I believe we're going to have at least 36 that will qualify for that. The program is just for mobile homes, and the state's reasoning for this program, why they're emphasizing mobile homes, is because they view mobile homes as sort of like this, and I'm going to put air quotes around this, naturally occurring affordable housing. It almost makes it sound like it's something that grew out in the wild, but I think what they're trying to emphasize there is that it's affordable by design is sort of the terminology that we use. Mobile homes do offer lower rents and a pathway to ownership for lower income people, and so this is a great way to provide housing opportunities and home ownership for lower income folks. This is another project we're doing where the floor in this bathroom was basically so spongy. There were concerns that the bathtub wasn't going to, that you couldn't put water in the bathtub and that it would hold through the floor. So really important projects that we're working on here for folks. By the way, they're not going to reuse this bathtub. They cut it in half. They're going to give them a new tub. The types of projects that we're looking at right now, several are roof repairs, as you see here, some mold remediation. There's a lot where there's a need for ventilation in the walls and roofs, and also in the unit itself. Electrical, plumbing, siding and skirting, flooring, foundation. The program, as I'd mentioned before, will allow you to replace the unit. So if the cost of fixing the unit is more than the cost of replacing it, these folks are actually going to get a brand new housing unit. Jen was just telling me before the meeting, we have 2 right now, but we think we're going to have at least 5 of this type. And the vendor that we're working with to replace these homes has a discount for 5 or more. So we're really trying to front load those, in particular because getting units here right now is really difficult. They bring them over 299. 299 has one-way controlled traffic right now because of the road work. And so you can't bring a oversized load across 299 right now. So we're trying to get them ordered now so that they're ready to go. As soon as that road opens up, they'll be able to ship them over. And then just sort of a note that, without this program, we really wouldn't be able to do anything to help these housing types. They're a really unique housing type, and most of the programs that we deal with, whether it's CDBG, home program, all of those are disallow mobile homes for the most part. There's some very narrow exceptions, but mobile homes are a really hard category to fill. And so we're thankful to the state for this program. And then just kind of in closing, you can reach out to Nick. I mentioned earlier, here's his contact information, and you can go to our website to learn more. That was a pun, more. And then I'm going to do my best on this last slide. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I will say la ciudad está aceptando solicitudes para el programa de rehabilitación de casas móviles, and para obtener más información usted puede contactar a Isaac West por correo electrónico a ewest@cityofarcata.org o llamar al 707-825-2107. I think I butchered the first one. 707. I said ocho. That's all I have for you.
Well, thank you very much on that. I know that's a really valuable program, and that we have a lot of mobile home parks within our city limits, and I think it's a valuable thing that we're able to upgrade them. So thank you for your work on this project. So we'll go on to other staff reports, and
Could I ask a question?
yes.
I was just wanting to clarify, you had said that the code violations preempt other things. First, I know that with an aging population, sometimes, when they got the mobile home, it didn't need to be ADA compliant, but now they're looking at wheelchair ramps and other things. How does, what if they don't have code violations, but they're not going to be able to remain in their home unless it becomes ADA compliant?
So we do have a category for that. It's just that because of the funding requirements, we can't fund those until after we do the ones that have the code violation. So there's the different buckets.
Okay.
A lot of them that do need ADA accessibility also have health and safety violations, so they fall into that second category anyway.
Okay.
So both of those things would be taken care of at the same time.
Okay, and then I had another question with regards to if it costs more to fix a particular home versus replacing it. Did you say that you do have the minimum of 5? Is that correct?
There's not a minimum, so they're
No, I mean the
encouraging.
5 to get the discount.
Oh, to get the
The
discount.
vendor
and
discount.
I
Are
think
we there
have
almost?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be over that.
That's fabulous. I'm super excited about this program. It's really going to make a difference in not creating more unhoused individuals and letting people stay, where they've had their community for a very long time. Thank you. It's a great presentation.
Sorry, I didn't ask. Okay, we have additional staff reports this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Stillman. I just have a few items to report on. One of the first ones is Arcata Bay Crossing. The council, I think, might have received some complaints from neighbors in the area. There were some activities happening associated with the Arcata Bay Crossing. And so I worked with David Loya. We met with Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation, some of the neighbors, representatives of Arcata House, who really helped to provide some of the support services there. I was really pleased with the outcome. The county stepped up and they provided some security, and the developer who managed the site, our Rural Community Housing, they also really met with a lot of the residents there, explained what the expectations were, and we saw almost an immediate turnaround of some of the things that were happening there. The neighbors are very pleased, and then we're going to continue to have ongoing follow-up meetings to see how we can keep things going in a positive direction there. So I was, again, really impressed on how quickly things got turned around and the willingness to work with our community partners on that project and making things better for the neighborhood. So that was the first one. And then the second one, I'd just like to say that Equity Arcata is going to be hosting a panel discussion this Saturday from 2 to 5 at the D Street Neighborhood Community Center. The panel discussion will really focus on the city sanctuary, the state and city sanctuary city ordinance, and specifically a lot of the questions will be on the role of city and policing and what would the city do for immigration enforcement. There's a lot of folks in the community who are concerned about that right now, and we really just wanted to make city staff and our police command staff available to be able to answer those questions and reassure the community of how we would act and how we would do things in that situation. Councilmember Schaefer is going to provide some opening remarks about Equity Arcata and the city, and I believe Councilmember White is going to be attending as well. And then lastly, I'd just like to say we had a very positive meeting with Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District. It was a good opportunity to meet with John Friedenbach, the outgoing general manager, and Michi Kumares, the new incoming manager. Really just to focus on some of the areas where the city will be able to collaborate and where they will be looking for input from the city in the near future. There might also be some opportunities if some of the council would like to get some tours of some of the facilities and become better acquainted, but they will be wanting to activate the water task force, which there is, we haven't had a lot of requests for input, but one of our council members, and I'm not sure which one right now, is the representative there, but there will be more activity coming for that role in the near future. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the presentation? Okay, then we'll move on. The next item on our agenda is oral written communications, and this is the time for early, limited time. The city values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. This early section of public comment is limited to 15 minutes, and speakers are limited to 2 minutes each. If you prefer to have a full 3 minutes of time for your public comment, this item is continued to the end of the meeting under item 12, where speakers are allowed and granted 3 minutes. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. There will be a time provided, public comment specific to each item when that item is being reviewed by the council. So, sometimes we've had disruptive behavior, so we now have a policy we get to read. Before we proceed tonight's meeting, I would like to address some recent concerns regarding behavior during public comment portion of city council meetings. The council deeply values the First Amendment rights of our community members to express their views. Public participation is the cornerstone of our decision-making process, and we encourage open dialogue during our meetings. However, it's important to recognize that our meetings are structured to carry out important work of governing the city of Arcata. In order to maintain and in order and ensure that we accomplish our business efficiently, we must address any disruptive behavior that hinders the purpose of those proceedings. So it goes on, but I'm going to leave it at that and assume we won't have any issues. And so is there anyone that would like to speak during oral communications, the 2 minutes? No one? Okay, please come forward if you wish to. If you wish to, the podium is right there, and that would be great. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm here to urge you to support an Arcata Gaza City Sister City project. It will help bring needed aid to people grappling with bombed homes, schools, and hospitals. Thousands of Palestinians have died from Israel's war on Gaza, and thousands more lack shelter, food, water, winter clothing, fuel, and medicine. A petition for the proposed Sister City now has 900 signatures, and the initiative is already making connections. One is with the Gaza Sunbirds, a group of paraplegics who bring food and other necessities to local communities. Another is the Giving Charity Foundation, which recently brought food to Gaza City, where everyone is hungry because of destroyed crops and livestock and Israel's blockade. The destruction and cost of human life in Gaza has appalled many of us here, including students. The reaction is a moral one, but speaking out against this war is being labeled anti-Semitism, a label that is causing conflict, loss of jobs, suspensions, and even loss of diplomas. Still, moral condemnation continues to grow. 6 towns in Vermont recently voted to end economic ties with Israel. Taxpayers Against Genocide, an initiative that began in Sonoma County last fall, has attracted national and international support. Rabbi Alyssa Wise says that saving human life is the most sacred obligation in Jewish tradition. And Rabbis for Ceasefire now has congregations in the US, Canada, and Europe.
So thank you very much for your comment, and your 2 minutes is over, and I appreciate it. So next, please.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, my name is Sean. I'm pleased to address you guys advocating for a sister city with Gaza City. The possibility that we're promoting is really the possibility of love and wellness, both in Gaza City as well as here in Arcata, both for women and children, but also the general population of these two areas. Perhaps many of you have already seen the news, but maybe not everybody has seen everything. So, just in the past, 48 hours or so, Israel has broken the ceasefire and murdered over 500 people, human beings in Gaza, Launched a ground invasion and separated the north from the south, murdering anyone that would even come close to the line of their separation. These are clear acts of genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, but it really is a unilateral breaking of the ceasefire. There's really no question who's done this. And a sister city, we can be part of the solution. In fact, we already are proving that we can be part of the solution. We've provided over 700 hot meals in about the past week to Gaza City and the surrounding area. We've provided a semi-truck of water to the area. So these are tangible results of our activities. And we're going to continue with what we're doing here. Gaza City municipality, they want to partner with us, and it actually means a lot to them that we do partner in these sister city relationships. So let's talk about this, what we can do to become an official sister city with Gaza City.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tricia Murphy, and I'm here to support the sister city with Gaza. I can think of a lot of good reasons to do this. One of the reasons is because we've been backing a genocide in Gaza for, I think, 14 or 17 months now we're at, since October 23. It's estimated by a scientific magazine, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, that over 200,000 people have been killed. 92% of the structures, I heard this today, a report just came out by the UN, 92% of the residential structures have been destroyed, 82% of the infrastructure has been destroyed. Does that sound like self-defense to you guys? The average age of the children there is 5. And on the way down, I heard on NPR, it was 190 children were killed in just one day. That's just one day. And that was a ceasefire that Israel broke. They have a long history of making deals with the Palestinians and then breaking those agreements. They paint the Palestinians out to be the terrorists. Israel is the terrorist. Israel is the provoker. They're the aggressor. They're the oppressor. I drive here, and I drive about 25 miles, and that's the length of Gaza, and surrounded 5 miles from one side to the other and 25 miles long is a huge wall. And so Israel carpet bombs from planes. They take no risks. It's not a battle. It's not a war. It's a genocide. And they're back at it again. And they're in Syria. And they're trying to get us to go to war with Iran right now. And it's looking like it might happen. This is leading us toward nuclear war. Is there anything we can do as a city to stop Israel and to stop our support?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Next, please, sir.
I'm Doug Moyer. I'm a resident of Arcata. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this proposal regarding a sister city. I first heard about it a couple weeks ago. One of the first organizational meetings happened in Eureka, and I attended it. It struck me as just a positive thing, sister city, a kind of non-threatening way to begin a dialogue of cooperation and negotiation. And many of the people attending had ideas of how to provide support as well through sister city channels, which we know that there's a huge amount of support needed in the region now. So I just see it as an opportunity to take a positive step forward towards being a voice for peace and support for the region. So I hope you'll consider this. Thank you for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else this evening that would like to speak during oral communications? during this portion of oral communications. Is there anyone on Zoom?
I don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you very much. With that, we will move on to our consent calendar. So, we have the approval to waive the reading of the text and consent to the read by title only for any ordinance on this agenda. B, approve the minutes of the City Council special meeting of March 5th, 2025. C, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of March 5th, 2025. D, biweekly report on disbursements. C, approve a lease agreement with Vero Fiber Networks LLC for communications equipment at Larson Park, assessor parcel number 505-051-002, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. F, reappoint Dan Hagens to the Forestry Committee for the 3-year term ending March 31st, 2028. G, reappoint John Kell III and Pedro Beloso to Parks and Recreation Committee for 3-year term ending March 31st, 2028. H, reappoint Jerry, I'm going to have a little trouble with this, Silva to the Wetlands and Creeks Committee for a 3-year term ending March 31st, 2028. Reappoint Peter Lehman, Matthew Simmons, Daniel Tagney to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term ending in March 31st, 2029. Approve plans. J is to approve plans and award for $1,375,922.90 contract for Plunkett Water retrofit project to Allen Gill Construction, Inc. Authorize city manager, in this case, city engineer, to execute or to increase the contract up to 10% contingencies and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. And K, adopt resolution number 245-38 to appreciation of the city of Arcata's voters for supporting and adopting Measure H. Is there anyone on the council who would like to withdraw something from the consent calendar?
Yeah, I would like to pull item I, please.
Okay, and I will have to pull item D. Anyone else have anything?
Do we have to pull it, or can we just accept and have Alex recuse from D?
I have to recuse myself from D.
If she's abstaining from the vote, it has to be pulled. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I can't vote on it.
And then we would vote on the entire consent calendar except for item D, and then we'd have a
And
separate
didn't
motion
you pull
to.
item A? You pulled item I. Okay, does someone want to move for approval of A minus D and I through K?
So, so I'll make a motion to approve items A through C, E, F, G, H, and J, and K. Just so we're.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Except
Aye.
we didn't
Those
take.
opposed?
I'm on I, but we didn't take a comment on the consent calendar.
Oh, guess who's here?
Somebody comment on the consent calendar.
Would you like to comment on the consent calendar?
Yes, thank you very much. My name's Joanne McGarry, and just as an aside, the hearing aid is not working well for me, so I'm having a hard time hearing. I would really like to ask everybody to move your mics a little bit closer and speak a little bit louder for my sake and maybe... Huh? Oh, okay. I would just like to say that the hearing is hard for me today. The apparatus isn't working. If everybody can hold their mic a little bit closer, straight on, speak a little bit louder. I don't know if others have that issue, but for me, please, thank you. The item, I appreciate item E and letting us know where this assessor's parcel is at Larson Park, and I hope the neighbors know about this. Because, communication when something's going into their neighborhood is really good. And also, all those reappointments, it's great that people want to stay involved and they're already involved. And then finally, Again, approving $1 million in something on a consent calendar just really makes me nervous. I don't know if you took that off the agenda. And then K, appreciation for the city voters for supporting and adopting Measure H. I didn't get a chance to read that resolution, but I've heard many comments about all this, and you know, people want us to do the right thing, and we need the funding to do it. So the reason they are supporting this, I think, is good. But somebody did make a comment about progressive, Arcata doing regressive tax stuff. And so they thought Arcata could be more progressive. So I just wanted to share that comment with you.
Anyone else like to comment on the consent calendar? Okay, shall we take item D?
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the full vote on that motion.
I think everyone voted yes, except for D and I. The motion was to approve A, B, C.
Yeah, I do have that Schaefer moved to approve items A through C, E, F, G, H, J, and K. Matthews seconded it. Do you mind all taking a vote so I can record that, please?
Yes. Will all those in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Sort of loud, but nevertheless. So let's go to D. I need to recuse myself from item D.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to accept item D.
I'll second.
May I interrupt before the vote? I just heard accept item D, and I think we need to approve it.
Approve, sorry.
And is that accepted by the second?
Yes, second.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria, I apologize.
So all those in favor of D, please signify by saying aye.
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 I abstain. We'll go to item I, and Meredith.
Yeah, so there was a blue folder. First of all, I would like to thank Peter, Matthew, and Dan Tagney for being amazing planning commissioners. They have a lot of institutional knowledge and have done an amazing job. We have a fourth applicant that put in his application, and I feel like we have had this situation before where we've had standing members of the Planning Commission and other applicants, and we've done interviews, and I feel like it's important to be consistent across the board. So, I mean, I've looked at the application. I think that I'm not sure. He seems like a great guy. I think that we probably owe him at least an interview before we make a decision. So I would like to move this item until such a time that we interview Sheldon, I believe his name is?
Yes. He's the chair of the Recreation Committee. So then we should pull this item off the agenda and put it onto our next agenda. I know, but I'm just saying, this is what I'm thinking. We should take this item off of this agenda, put it on our next agenda, and then authorize the staff to ask everyone to come in for interviews. Is that how you would see it happening?
I don't particularly feel like I need to interview Peter, Matthew, and Dan. I've got a good idea of how they are, but I do think that we can do a 1 or 2 minute interview of Sheldon. I don't think it would be any harm, and it would just be consistent.
So what do you think, Director?
I just wanted to let you know that we also had an application that came in after the filing deadline, and so there's actually another applicant in the pool. It did happen after the filing deadline, so I just wanted to provide you that information. If you're going to do the interviews, to maybe take into consideration whether you want to accept that one as well.
Thank you. And what is the pleasure of the council? It came in after the deadline, but is the pleasure still to interview?
I think deadlines are also like a sign of being able to follow direction, and so I think maybe that can wait till the next one for someone. It's important to follow deadlines, so I'd just as soon interview Sheldon.
All right.
Sounds good to me. That's fine. And I support pushing this to the next agenda and doing interviews at that time.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
I think a motion to continue this to the next meeting would be.
May we please have a motion to continue this?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor for it?
Aye.
Yeah?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we all voted yes. Thank you. So we'll go on to old business. Consider the approval of the agreement for transfer of ownership and management of the Arcata Mad River Transit System to Humboldt Transit Authority and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and the member of the public. The item in front of you is to do a contract with HTA to transfer our ownership and operations of our transit system to them. We've been discussing this item for maybe more than a decade, but finally we are here. Just to give you maybe a quick overview, we started our transit in 1975. Since then, we've been doing an amazing job of providing transit service to Arcata. At one point, we had our transit all in the city. We had all our buses maintained, and we had a mechanic at the corporation yard. We even have currently we have a structure called bus barn where we used to park our buses. But due to the nature of small transit system, we were not able to have right type of mechanics to do the servicing for the buses. So we had to do a contract with HTA to park our buses, vehicles there, and to do the maintenance there. In last 5 years, again, because the small nature of the transit system, we are not able to get the drivers. So what we did was contracted with HTA, and they provide most of our services. So currently, HTA provides more than 90 to 95% of all transit operations. So this contract will do all 100%. So right now, we just manage funding, but now with this contract, we'll be transferring funding to HTA also. One of the main goals of doing this is to regionalize the transit to make efficient, so the one transit system could run for the region instead of having multiple transit systems trying to run the system. So that was the main reason for doing this. Main highlights, this is a typical contract, but the main highlights of the contracts are all the vehicles will be transferred to HTA. All our funding streams will be transferred to HTA so they could run the transit system. Any major change, if they plan to do, they have to consult with the city. We, as a council member, we have a seat at HTA, so we will have input on that, so for any major changes. That's per the contract. And over the years, we have provided some special transit services to Cal Poly, Oyster Festival, Godwood Festival, and other things. So if we want to continue to do that, we have to give them 30 days of notice, so they will be able to provide that service. They will continue to provide that service. All the bus stops will be maintained by HTA starting July 1st. Transit center. Currently, some of the drivers who use the transit system, they use the transit center as a restroom. So as a part of the contract, it's written in the contract that they will be able to use that facility for restroom for a long period of time. And then, as you know, HTA does advertisement on their buses, so they will be doing the same thing. I cannot call it our buses, but it will be their buses, so they will be doing advertisement, and all the revenue will go to them. So those are the major highlights of the contract. During this process, I think I came to council, maybe this is my third time on the similar topic. Few items came. I think one of the main questions that always keeps on coming is, what will happen to the transit center? I think the answer is, I think currently the plan is to, city will continue to use that. Currently we have an IT department there. There is a space for a transit staff. For the next fiscal year, we do not plan to have a transit staff. In our last council meeting, we disallocate the transit position. So starting May, May 1st, we will not have a transit staff at the transit. However, we are in communication with HTA and trying to find if they are willing to use that space for their staff to provide some sort of services. We don't have a commitment from them because of the funding. They don't have money. If they find some sort of funding, they are willing to, so we will have that space. We will be renting that space to HTA if they want to use that. The other thing that came up was once in a while we have inmates from Pelican Bay, they get dropped here and they're not sure what to do from here because they don't get a clear direction. So we are in communication with the staff at the Pelican Bay and trying to work with their staff to make sure that when they are dropping the inmates here, give them a clear direction, money, and some sort of a direction so they know exactly what's going on. So we are in communication with them on that. So we don't have a resolution, but we are working with them so that we don't have a people just hanging out at the transit for a long period of time and they're not sure what to do. And because we will not have any staff to help them. So those are the main things. I'm here to answer any question you may have. This is, as I said, we've been talking about this for the last 10 years. Seriously, we started working on this in the last 2 years, so now we are here. This is good. This is good for the region, yeah.
Thank you. Council questions?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of addressed it, and I guess I just wanted to, and everybody here at council and staff is aware of it, but CRTP Colin Fisk wrote in and to council and staff with a concern, or rather a question, about the long-term fate of the current Arcata Transit Center, which he understood would remain in city ownership, but he had respectfully requested that the city commit to maintaining the current transit center or another centrally located center facility into the future. So what he went on to say as well, the current center is certainly not perfect. Transit riders throughout the region and Arcata residents and institutions would suffer if the city lost its regional transit hub. So
So at this time, my understanding is the drivers they use it. They come in the morning, they turn off the alarm, they use the restroom. The last driver coming through at night turns the alarm on, locks the door. Well, the door is always locked and leaves. Right now, it's being utilized. The building is being utilized. Eventually, the council office will be moved to another location in the building. And as far as I know, you could ask the city manager, do you have any plans for that building being torn down in the near future, like next week?
There are no plans for that building right now, other than just kind of the current use, which is using it for IT until such a time as HTA identifies whatever needs they might have, and certainly we wouldn't tear down a building or do anything without bringing that to the council. So
I just thought I'd add that because that's a concern of people that we would lose it, and I don't see that happening. And we have public comment.
What, could I finish? I still.
Oh, you're not finished?
No, I
I'm
wasn't.
sorry.
That's okay. My understanding is the transit staff no longer will have access because we don't have any as of May 1st, but they can still use it for breaks and restroom, lunch, all of those things still?
Not for breaks and lunchroom, but definitely for restrooms, yes.
So where do they go for their lunch or breaks then?
Well, while they are driving, some people go for a walk when they have a break, and
so they don't have anywhere to eat their lunch?
They don't have a dedicated lunch space, no.
Since it's been quite a while since they haven't been using that facility for lunches or for breaks, when our drivers all went over to HTA, we no longer had a need for that space. And so they started using it for their bathroom breaks, etc. And you will see the drivers walking downtown in various places from the bus, and then they go back because they have these breaks of so long, and you'll see them wandering around town.
Yeah, I guess I did get some input from one of the drivers who was distraught that they couldn't really afford to go out and eat. They had this bag lunch. Where do they go? So I just wanted to put that forward, that there were people who wanted to use it, but it had been shut down.
Well, there's no reason why they can't walk in the door and there's benches in there and sit down and eat their lunch on their lunch break. There's no reason why not. There's garbage cans there and they can easily do that.
So they could use it then?
Yes.
The benches, yes, but okay, maybe let me clarify. So when we had our drivers under city staff, we had a break room and lunchroom. They used to do that. Since we moved our all driving services to HTA, there is no space for lunch. Definitely, drivers could take a break, use the bench, use the restrooms, definitely, but there's no dedicated lunch space for them to take a lunch breaks.
And there hasn't been for quite some time since we moved all the drivers over to HTA.
And I would, yes. And then I could just want to add maybe one more on the transit hub. Definitely, I think transit center in Arcata is a transit hub, but HTA is currently working on the transit hub in Eureka for Earth Center, and at some point that'll be done, and that will become the new center for the transit hub.
And that's where they'll have their breaks and et cetera there. So yes, would you like to speak on this item?
Yes, I do, of course. My name is Joanne McGarry. I'm a regular bus rider now. And for transparency, in the Sunshine Week, even though I'm not a government employee, I actually had a meeting with Greg Pratt earlier this week to talk about some suggestions to improve the routing in Arcata for the Arcata buses once all of this is completed. And I'm very excited that Arcata bus system is going to be part of HTA officially. But getting back to the transit center, the weather today, you know, I walk around everywhere in town, and I live on the other side of Samoa Boulevard. So when I'm here in the downtown area doing errands or this and that, and I need to wait for a bus to take me wherever I'm going, having access to that transit center, especially indoors, especially for someone like me who could benefit by the restroom and the benches inside, especially in inclement weather. I sit there on those benches and think, in fact, there was a Pelican Bay person there who had missed a connection for some reason. So it's all interesting. I see it a lot because I use it a lot. And I'd love to maintain access indoors for bus riders. The incentive in a climate changing world with the climate action plan, we need to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We need to get more people on the bus. And if we just keep them out in the cold and the wet and whatever, and don't provide some of the amenities that would really be helpful, I think that's an error in moving toward the future. And I was just also thinking, if you're concerned about the whole lobby area inside an accordion wall that could be locked, and so they wouldn't have access, but being flexible literally with that space and whatever HTA can come up with. I just really think we can do better than just saying, well, it's not been that way for a long time, so, whatever, and now the HTA is in charge. It's so important for us in Arcata people who are in our town, even if they're just staying on the Arcata bus system. So, it's one thing to, go into Eureka or beyond or up to Trinidad, but even then there's no benches to sit on when you're waiting for an RTS bus, let alone any shelter. So having access indoors is really important to people like me who ride the bus.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, thank you.
Okay, Gregory Daggett. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I fully support people using the buses and getting more of Arcata residents to do that. But I'd also point out the reality, since I walk a lot and see a lot of things. For example, how about our high school that I live on 16th Street, the largest parking lot in town outside of the university. Parking lot is completely full with cars, and now on 16th Street, the street is completely full of cars. So the reality is our young people, I don't think, are using the buses. They're more and more are jumping in their car because they probably don't want to wait for the bus, or their parents are dropping them off. And I've seen this for years. It's not improving at all. It's getting worse. More people are using the cars, and more people, are just getting dropped off. I mean, I see the school buses going by all the time, and there's only like 2 or 3 students on the bus. The only bus that's got a decent amount of students is the public bus coming from Blue Lake. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be a lot more education going on, because it's just this whole fantasy. I've seen it for 2 years of going to planning commission, and how our housing is going to not need any parking, and everyone's going to be like hopping on the bus going to school or work. And unfortunately, it is not happening. I mean, I'm a strong environmentalist, so I totally want this to go in that direction. But it is just a fantasy of what I'm seeing in reality. I mean, people are not using their bikes, they're not walking that much, they're driving, and that's just the reality of what I'm seeing. So let's have some kind of strategy to encourage people to go in that direction, since you are spending a lot of money, and I support that more people will ride the bus, but it's just not happening.
Thank you very much. Are there any more comments on this item? Any comments from the council?
I will say that I have seen like a pretty strong, what's the word, from HTA, like Ride Humboldt. They're doing a lot of advertisement and really like doing a good job of marketing riding the bus. So I guess thanks to HTA for like, trying to promote that.
Well, the ridership is up. It was down during COVID, and it's gradually moving up every month. There's more and more ridership. And as far as the high school kids coming out of Willow Creek and also Blue Lake, they pretty much fill the bus coming in and into the high school. So that's been really advantageous, but not always for some of the other riders, because they would also like to be. We had to. HTA had to do something about Blue Lake because before the Rancheria had bus system coming in, and then that was terminated. So now HTA picks up all the students and the people that were normally using Blue Lake Rancheria bus. They pick them up now. So that is a little bit about that. And HTA drivers probably for some time have not actually had a lunchroom there, and that's been locked to the public or to them for, I don't even know how many months, at least as long as we've had our council chambers office down there, which has been close to 6 months or more. So
if I may, I would like to move to
Yes,
approve the
please.
agreement for transfer of ownership and management of the Arcata and Mad River Transit System to Humboldt Transit Authority and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents.
is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
Is there any other comments? Then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 So, I'm really happy that we were the first ones in Arcata to start a bus system for Humboldt County, and just to be able to see where the regional system has gone over the years and what we've been able to accomplish. And I think it's good that we are moving forward as a representative from this council on HTA. So I thank everyone, and I thank staff for moving forward on this. And we may see in the future, they talk about headways, and by going down every time down to the transit center, we may see that there'll be stops instead. It'll be on F Street for pickup and drop off, and that'll make it faster for headways from Eureka to McKinleyville and beyond. So thank you. With that, we'll go on to a next item on the agenda. It's new business. A is consider adopting resolution number 245-39, accepting 2024 general plan annual progress report. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. It's time again to review the city's accomplishments toward implementing our general plan as we prepare to submit our general plan annual progress report to the state. The report is required by the state, and it's submitted annually on April 1st. It's a helpful tool just to communicate progress on our housing element and also other elements of our general plan. This year, the report is a little bit reformatted from last year because of the adoption of the new general plan. I'm going to go through the sections really quickly with you and kind of explain what we've done differently. The first section shows progress towards meeting the RHNA numbers, our regional housing needs allocation numbers that are allocated by the state. Some of the highlights this year include, you'll see that there's not been any large multifamily projects that we've had in previous years. Most of the 22 housing permits, so 19 of the 22 were actually accessory dwelling units. So we've been doing quite well in that category and continue to see improvements there, which is fantastic. That's a way that we can increase density without really impacting neighborhoods in a major way, visually at least. One of the categories that we continue to lag in is the moderate housing development. So that's an area that we continue to lag in. Because we're behind in the above moderate production, I'm sorry, not moderate, above moderate production, the city is actually subject to SB 423, which used to be SB 35. They upped it, so they changed the number, which always confuses people. But basically what that is it provides a streamlining ministerial approval process for proposed developments with at least 10% affordability. So we are subject to that because we have not met the number that we should have met for the above moderate category currently. So those are the items I'd like to highlight in section 1. In section 2, you'll see there's a formatting change to this year's report. Instead of listing accomplishments that meet various policies in the general plan, we created a table of all the implementation measures in the general plan for each element. And so with that, we can report on accomplishments that meet those implementation measures or move those forward, and we can track those throughout year by year. So what you see in the report is actually a condensed version, but if you expanded that, you would see every single implementation measure that there is in the General Plan 2045. So it's a great tool for us going forward to be able to use that, and we can look at year after year how we've met those implementation measures and what progress we've made. The biggest news, of course, this year is the adoption of the General Plan 2045, which is discussed in section 3 in a little more detail. Obviously, we're all really proud of that accomplishment, and we're excited to share that with the state. Once the City Council adopts the General Plan APR, it'll be available on the city's website along with the last few years, so you can see year after year. I think moving to this new implementation measure tool will be a better way to track that for the community. So you'll be able to actually use the same implementation measure tool year after year to be able to track. So it'll be a little bit easier to follow going forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have about the report.
Council?
I just have a comment. I was at the Civic Well Conference this weekend, and you heard a lot of city council members complaining about RENA numbers and how RENA is unfair and not being able to meet RENA numbers, and that's a debate for another time. But I just wanted to say, and when I would tell them, oh yeah, we only have trouble meeting our above moderate numbers, their jaws like drop, and they're like, what? And so just to really say thank you to the Community Development Department for all the wonderful work you do, getting grants and finding, us great projects to get affordable housing built here. And I think that Arcata's done a really good job of that over the last few years. Now, whether, above moderate income housing is affordable for the people that maybe it's, that they want us to build it for is a story for another time too. But just thank you to Community Development for all the work that you do. And it's really cool to see, all of these accomplishments kind of laid out in a table like this. And it's a great report to read over, and it was easy to read. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Other council members?
I'm just curious about above moderate housing and why it's so complicated to get people to build. Do we need incentives to build above moderate housing? It's because it seems like it's kind of biting us for not, if we're going to get penalized for it, it seems like it's something that we should kind of.
And can I just piggyback on that question just so that you can answer them all at once? Can you remind us of how much time we have? We're at 40% to make up those 158 units.
Okay, I'll take the first part and I'll turn it over to Jen for the second part because she's our resident expert with all things RENA. In terms of above moderate income housing, really what we're talking about is sort of like the, California, the Diamond Drive type developments. Even a lot of, single family subdivisions, down on the bottoms would qualify for above moderate. In Arcata, we just don't have a lot of vacant land to subdivide and create single family opportunities. And so what we've really been looking towards for the future is to do plans like what we did in the Gateway area, where we'll have mid-rise buildings that have condos that people can buy, and that's where you're going to start to see more of the above moderate income housing. I do want to take a moment too to kind of remind us of the connection between having more multifamily housing and freeing up the single family housing stock. Because even a lot of that, even though we're not producing new housing in that instance, we are freeing up that single family housing stock that would be, if it were built today, above moderate. And so over time, as you're starting to get more multifamily housing that's attractive to the renters, we have 33% of our housing stock in ownership. which is much less than the state, which is around 45%, and the state is dead last, or well, I think we're second to last in the nation in terms of home ownership. So the vast majority of our housing stock is in the rental market. A lot of that rental market housing stock has not been maintained because there hasn't been an incentive over time to maintain that housing stock. And as these renters who are living in there start to see brand new multifamily buildings go up, where they can move in and for about the same price have, you know, something that's brand new, that's not drafty, that doesn't grow, you know, fungi in the hallways, that sort of thing, they're going to start to make that market decision. And then the investors who own these homes are going to start making the market decision to release these homes back into the market where, you know, single families can start to own those single family homes, young professionals. We have council members who are constantly on the lookout for one of these. And so, you know, that's sort of the idea here, is that we're not necessarily building out new greenfield subdivisions to meet that market niche. We have a couple of strategies that combine together to provide more of that housing to our community.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, I in no way want to like sprawl and build subdivisions anywhere in Arcata, so let's get that out there.
And then to address the rest of Kimberly's question, we have 3 more years left in our, in this housing element cycle. So we're actually already starting to work towards our next housing element, which is crazy.
Not to be a naysayer, but just thinking of the worst possible scenario, the repercussions if we don't meet that.
There aren't necessarily repercussions for not meeting that. Obviously, those are our goals, and that's what we're attempting to do. That's what we've said we would attempt to do. We'll be looking towards the next housing element cycle. If things didn't work the way that we had planned in this one, looking at ways and ideas that we can create that for the next
So
cycle.
that doesn't mean that the state's going to come in here and do their thing.
Yeah, I wanted to address too the streamlining that Jen was talking about, where if a project provides 10% affordable housing, they have streamlining permitting. It takes a lot of the authority of the city away from the city and gives it to the developers. But I want to remind you that 10% affordable housing is also going to trigger density bonus, which streamlines and takes authority away from the city as well. So there are lots of different tools the state has created to allow developers to come in and build in our community and streamline their permit processes. We have been proactive in that as well. The council supported a lot of these proactive provisions in the general plan and in the gateway area plan. We'll be discussing inclusionary zoning pretty soon here. So I think that this council, my read is that this council is really supportive of getting some affordable housing into these projects anyway, and so that would be a good thing. So I don't really fear the fact that, because we're behind on our inclusionary, or because we're behind on our one category, and that's going to trigger these streamlining, I don't think that's something that we should fear. I think we've already embraced it. I was having a conversation with Jen just before the meeting today, and we were talking about, the objective of meeting these RHNA goals, and really that is not our objective. Our primary objective is to meet the community's housing goals, and that might align with the RHNA, that might be greater than the RHNA, and so I think we just need to keep our eye focused on what's best for this community.
And that's a really good reminder, because while we may have met our objectives for very low and low, that might not be what we could always go more. Doesn't keep us from doing above and beyond. Could you repeat, just because I should have known this, but I didn't. Arcata is the second to last for home ownership. Is that, did you say?
No.
Oh, good.
The state of California is second to last in the nation in home ownership. There's about 45 to 49%, I can't remember the exact number, home ownership in the state. Nationwide, the average is about 65%. The city of Arcata is 33%, so we're much. If we were a state, we would be dead last, but we're not a state, we're just a city. And the reason why I put those numbers out there is just to reflect on what, generally speaking, in the nation is expected for home ownership rates, just to kind of compare.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, the only thing that I really feel is building housing becoming so cost prohibitive with tariffs and just how expensive it's going to be. So, I mean, we don't have to
It'll become above moderate so easily.
I mean, that's, so, yeah, I guess it remains to be seen, but,
Well,
yeah.
one of the things also on the CERT call today, when we had the city of Eureka and the city of Arcata talking about housing, they were talking about the number of homes that are occupied by one person, and there are 3 or 4 bedrooms, and if they're able to figure out other ways for people to move into condominiums or townhouses that don't need that much space to live in anymore, that those can then go into families, young families and so forth. Well, that's always been a goal. When our community development director, Larry Ocker, was here, that's something he used to talk about, is how we needed to make that transition. And I think we still do, and, well, I know we do. No, we still do. We still need to do that. And I feel like possibly now there'll be some opportunities maybe for that, for home ownership of townhouses or condominiums, and that'll allow people that want to live in Arcata, who have never been able to afford to live in Arcata or to find housing available that is in good shape. We have a lot of houses, well, not a lot. I guess you have 2 or 3 houses that are constantly coming on the market, but a lot of them, according to today's standards, would be you just rip the entire inside out and you start all over again. And you're paying, $500,000 for something that needs to be completely redone, because a lot of that housing was built in the 60s. And we have a lot of apartments, which we were looking, David was talking about this. Can we take some of the apartments that we have that are like townhouses, and can we make those into townhouses and sell them? But the numbers of what people are selling those properties for to go in and do that work doesn't pencil out where you could actually sell it for $350,000 or $400,000. So I think it's going to have to be new housing. And we know we will have, the reason we're able to have so much housing that is low in income, et cetera, is because of the tax funding that Danco is able to do. And they are one of our providers. And also we have Arcata, well, they've changed their name to something now.
Rural communities.
Thank you, rural communities, and they were able to use different kinds of funding sources to make that available. But we have inclusionary zoning on this tonight, and my goal is not to have any inclusionary zoning, and just. Oh, okay, it's right here.
Yeah, but we're going to discuss it
Printed it
on
out.
April 2nd.
It's right here, just so I could talk about it, because I think we should really have, I watched the planning commission.
It's not on the agenda, though, we can't.
Well, it's part of this plan. It says general plan implementation measure, and so
I think
you
we
can't
probably
talk, you
talk
can't
about it,
talk
but not
about
make any
anything.
It's one of the
About it.
implementation measures. I
Yeah.
think it is what Alex is pointing
So
to.
you
or-
can't talk
sorry.
about any implementation tonight?
Well, I don't think we can make any decisions on it.
We just thought you were saying it was on the agenda, which it is not.
Well,
but
I should
it
say,
is
it being on
included
the
in the report.
agenda, it's in our packet, let's put it that way. So I would say it's on our, not that I want to take a vote on it, but I think I watch planning commission meetings, et cetera, and I think what we should really do is just see if we can get any housing built. And if we can get any housing for people that would want to move into it and sell their homes, and then open up that market that we talk about for years. And so that leads me, I can't ask you another question about housing because it's not on the agenda, but nevertheless, we do have a housing project.
I don't want to interrupt. Are you finished?
Yep.
I did want to say something that does pencil out is that we have done an extremely great job with arena numbers in very low, and moderate. And I just think that's amazing. Like, pat yourselves on the back, everybody. It's just, that's incredible. So
And we
we'd be
have-
very proud of that.
We have another development that we're helping with, and that'll help with those numbers too.
So what do you need from us? Do we need to vote to accept it, or is this just for information? Public comment, but yeah, just trying to.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? Thank you.
It's been 3 years since the annual report, as a year after year has gone by, and one of the important things is also the noise element. And I think we're like a week away from when I wrote this letter 3 years ago, and Stacy returned promptly my letter, in which you got a copy today, a few hours ago. So, and she basically said, look, we're not doing anything about it. You know, our police department, we just don't have enough people. I'm totally on your side. I have the same problem where I live. And, you know, it's been quite a while. And she even actually came out to my house when you actually got wind that you were going to start hiring more police and came out and said, hey, give us a little bit more time, because at that time I was saying, you know, I'm going to go to the Attorney General of the state of California. I'm just tired of this whole issue. So I told her I wouldn't do that, and I'd give you more time. You guys have got to, you know, you're completely funded in the police department now. And you even brought this up during, I appreciate Alex bringing this up when you were doing the update this last early summer on the general plan, and you all agreed that this was a problem, and hey, let's do something about it. So nothing has been done about it. Only thing that happened, you know, that I wrote that there's never been anybody that's been got a citation. Well, apparently I was wrong about that when I wrote that, because when I ran for city council, you know, magically, and I also let the police know that I did write this letter to the Attorney General, they got 3 people in one day. So, I mean, this is like pathetic that they actually did it for one day, and then there's been nothing since then. So I'm just wondering, like, what's going on with you guys? It's just, all you had to do in the last 3 years, it was a pretty simple task. And I'll give you an example, our former city manager, all you had to say is, hey, Karen, enforce the law. You know, we had to, like, all of you had to swear, you know, that uphold the laws of the state of California, and you just had to tell her that. And I'm just shocked that, you know, once she found out she was going to retire, that she got a little angry one night and told me, you know, we haven't done it in the past, we haven't done it in the present, and we're not going to do it in the future. And it was all because she didn't feel like the way that I addressed it was polite enough or whatever. But apparently she still has some strength here, because nothing's been done about it. So I'm just like in shock. So I guess I'm going to have to go to, you know, the state and let them know, like, what's going on with all this little city here, that you're not interested in the laws.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you.
I'd like to then make a motion to adopt resolution number 245-39, accepting the 2024 general plan annual progress report.
And I cannot vote for it because we're going to be including the inclusionary zoning, and we're adopting that as part of this.
No, it's
Well,
just an
it-
update.
Yeah, if you don't want to.
This is just a report on the progress for
Okay, so
inclusionary zoning.
by doing that, we're not worrying about dark skies or inclusionary.
I mean, it
zoning.
says, so it says it says this is the implementation measure, and then it says the status of that implementation measure is that the planning commission had made recommendations at this, and that, you
That's
know,
right.
like which are things that have happened.
Yes, they have.
I second.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we have not submitted inclusionary zoning, that's all.
The inclusionary zoning's coming up at another meeting. This is an update on the general plan, and that's just the status that's in the annual report.
Thank you very much. So all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Have the opportunity to go to oral and written communications that are continued from the earlier communications. So, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Ready?
Yes?
All right, 3 minutes. My name's Joanne McGarry, and I appreciated the proclamations today. I'm not always a big fan of the time it takes for ceremonial matters, but sunshine laws and tsunami warnings are all very important. So I just want to share that I do have my go bag. I do live in a tsunami zone. Ironically, the day of the earthquake in December, I wasn't carrying that with me, and I didn't even feel the earthquake. So fortunately, others around me informed me, and I got to higher ground. So I think it's really good that we do this. I really think the city of Arcata needs to start taking the lead in, you know, what happens when people are at work and their go bags at home. You know, what's going to be existing for all of us, you know, when the big one hits and we have to commune together up at Redwood Park. So, I mean, we can't get back to our homes. So that's, you know, one thing. I watch a lot of the previous meetings to what goes on, especially I watch myself because I really do want to see if I come across coherently and kindly and directly and impactfully. I've come to find out on social media that people don't appreciate me for a lot of what I do and say, whether it's on social media or in community. I do have some people who walk up and say, thanks for what you're doing. You know, and that's a little hurtful to have that kind of comment. And one came from a former city council member. So that was, you know, hard to hear. But the thing is, I was just reading the Mad River Union, and people had spoken earlier about, you know, really important things that are happening in our world and what we as our community in the city of Arcata can do and help. And there was a quote from Martin Luther King, and it says, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And we can interpret that in so many ways, but I see it coming from Martin Luther King, is that we need to care about one another and we need to work together to care and help people around the world. It's a small world, after all. And what happens in the Middle East is affecting us. It affected us in the elections. Please think about what we as Arcata can do to make a difference in the world.
One of the big projects in the last couple of years that I brought up a number of times is the wastewater treatment plant, that $64 million project that is, I guess, close to completion. So a question I have from that standpoint is, if we put all this money into this plant and everything is supposed to be, you know, working pretty well, why did we have, I mean, a major spill right before New Year's Day where thousands of gallons of raw sewage was like dumped into the bay? I mean, this was reported in the Los Coast Journal. It was just a very short article. And it said that the city self-reported to the Regional Water Quality Board that it was due to the rains, that they couldn't keep up with their pumps. And this is raw sewage that for like 7-hour period that they didn't say where exactly it was. But I mean, I'm just kind of like shocked that that happened when we put this kind of money into this plant. And I'd also bring it up from the standpoint, it's kind of related to the gateway in the standpoint that this was a question of environmental service, and our city engineer that was asked, do we have the capacity to handle all this wastewater from new development in the future? And what I recall at the time was that we got an answer that it was good, but it was based on dry season capacity. And so, you know, this is the problem. This is the question I have. It's like, if we haven't even built anything and we're dumping thousands of gallons of wastewater that's into the bay, what happened, you know, and whether that calculation that was basically, we took the word from our city officials, is accurate. Because we have Cal Poly that shortly is going to be this summer, that's going to be hooked up to our system, and that's like 1,000 students there. And I mean, we need an answer to why that happened. And it also said in that article that wasn't the first time that they had 7 other incidents for the year where there was a hazardous waste released from the city of Arcata. So it's just like, we don't have a lot of openness on like what's going on so that we can all have, assurances that, those money that we put into is basically doing what it's supposed to be doing, and we're not going to have some kind of environmental disaster, because reporting to the Regional Water Quality Board that you released thousands of gallons of raw sewage is pretty bad, so let's get some answers to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thank you so much for allowing this public comment time. I am speaking in favor of Arcata becoming a sister city with Palestine. However, if it's not a sister city thing, I would really appreciate the city council taking a stand on the issue in some way. Other cities have done that. We all know that cities can do that. They can just make a statement to the federal government. I know it's not our authority to make foreign policy out of Arcata, but it is within our authority to say we don't want to stand for, we don't want our tax money as this area, as a city. Enough people are concerned about sending our tax money to go for something that very prominent organizations have called a genocide. And people are having 2,000-pound bombs dropped on their homes. It's over 50 or 60,000 people that have been killed. While we understand that the October 7th was a terrible thing, we've gone way beyond a response and way beyond defense here in supporting Israel, devastating the entire area and stopping aid from going in to help the people, the civilians who are starving and dying and being bombed to death all at the same time. So let's please take a stand in some way, whether it's a sister city or just a statement, to say that many of our citizens do not want to pay for genocide in Palestine or anywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
Yes, we do have a hand raised on Zoom. Peter, please go ahead. I just asked you to unmute, Peter. Please try speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. Before I get started, I don't know if this is a problem on my end, but I've been sitting through the entire meeting, and I have not been able to pick up any of the comments made by members of the public. I've heard all your council member voices and all the city reports and so forth just fine, but whatever microphone has been used for commenters, I have not picked any of that up. So I don't know what that's about.
And just for the council, excuse me, Peter, we'll give you more time, but we're having some technical difficulties that our staff are trying to fix. So we understand we're having some difficulties with that.
Okay, well, thank you. I just wasn't sure if anyone was aware of it or not. So the purpose of my attending the meeting on Zoom tonight is I'm here to express my support for a sister city association between Arcata and Gaza City. And this has a long personal history for me that I'll touch upon in a couple of cases. I've long supported the cause for justice and peace in Palestine. I've contributed material and moral support over about 50 years now. I can't possibly in a few minutes articulate all the depth and breadth of my disconsolation about injustice and hatred, but I'm going to do the best I can to communicate my long history of compassion and solidarity with beleaguered victims of violence and hate. Across my many years of advocating for peace and prosperity for Palestinians, as well as grieving for all the earth's persecuted people, all its living beings, I've reflected on the unrelenting history of inhumanity that's mostly been perpetrated in my lifetime for personal financial gain, political, military power, social privilege, and it's all taken a dramatic and massive toll on life. And I've often felt like giving up, but my conscience compels me to remain vigilant in a quest for justice. I remain profoundly saddened, disgusted, and angry about the consistently mind-numbing examples of human avarice, ignorance, stupidity, and omnicidal tendencies. The history of Palestine itself over the past 150 years is a fitting yet tragic microcosm of dystopian proportions of the how and why all humanity now totters at the brink of its own extinction. And lots of my friends, lots of other people have responded, well, humanity's always been destructive and hateful. But you know, I just can't settle for that. I can't agree that we must resign ourselves to such elemental antagonism. We must do better in taking care of one another regardless of differences or personal ideology. I'm going to spare you because, and I did write a lot more than this, but I'm going to spare a lot of the, I guess I would say, closer at hand recent history in the Middle East. But many years ago, through the Middle East Children's Alliance, I participated in funding an effort to provide clothing and school supplies for young Palestinian students. In addition to my modest donation to Mecca at that time, I sent along a short letter to a student in Palestine, in Gaza, expressing my wishes that she succeed in her educational and personal goals. And I invited her to maintain correspondence if she wished to do so. Shortly thereafter, I received a brief response from Allah, thanking me on behalf of herself and her family, as well as for my engagement in promoting education as a human right and the consequent opportunities for her fulfilling her dreams and the human potential for all Palestinians, children and otherwise. Regrettably, unfortunately, I never heard from Allah or her family again. And to this day, my heart aches from that loss well over 25 years ago. And all the more deeply of late as I've learned more about the sordid history of injustice and violence against Palestinians. It's not simply personal grief, it's a deep sorrow born from the criminal depravity of political posturing and state-sponsored violence at the expense of taking care of every life, every human, and every life on the planet. So in that light, on a very personal note, I truly urge the Arcata City Council to take the morally and politically appropriate steps in forging a sister city relationship with Gaza City. For the sake of humanity and as a shining example of empathy and compassion, the very least this community can do is to back up our values with substantive action and public policy, a most worthy act of resistance against militarism, imperialism, genocide, and hate.
Thank you very much for your time is up, but I'm going to thank you very much for your comments tonight. Do we have anyone else on Zoom?
No, I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then that leads us into council reports, and shall we start with you, Sarah?
I forgot. Oh, we're done. The only thing I really have to report is that, yes, Alex and I went to the Civic Well Conference in Yosemite, along with two of our county supervisors were there as well, Mike Wilson and Steve Madrone. It was, I'm grappling with it. I'm writing up some reflections, and hopefully those will be definitely on my social media and maybe in the paper if Kevin Hoover will have them. And so, you know, maybe a little bit more in depth, I'll be able to go with that. But I mean, overall, a lot of great sessions. They really focused a lot on disaster resilience. There were talks about wildfire resilience, really made some good bonds with some folks from Chico. There were 3 Chico council members there that were, you know, really had a lot to talk about, and similar experiences of just, trying to build affordable housing in a college town and working with just different populations. And we had a lot to talk about with those folks. And just, we heard from people from FEMA and from the EPA of the former administration of how those groups will be impacted by current cuts in our federal budget. And then also got to hear about just a lot of different creative financing options and private financing options for getting climate projects done, kind of in the face of what is looking like a administration that will not prioritize getting climate projects done. So a lot of great connections, met a lot of wonderful people, had some really good conversations, heard from some very great folks. So that's all I have to report on that, and stay tuned if you follow me on social media for more info.
Thank you. And so shall we go to Councilman Matthews?
Thank you. So speaking of Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, I had my LAFCO meeting today, and we got a big report on their municipal service report. And so just going through like everything they do and everything they serve, and it's really interesting. I'm really enjoying my position on LAFCO. I'm looking forward to going to a convention in October and getting some more institutional knowledge, because it's really fascinating, this local area formation. So I'm really enjoying serving on that. Heading to Burbank next week for my Housing, Community, and Economic Development Policy Committee meeting. Really looking forward to seeing what is coming down the line as far as bills on housing mostly, and economic development, which are two things that are really important to me. This is like the 10,000th time tonight I've heard someone refer to the D Street Neighborhood Center incorrectly. I'd really like to work on renaming D Street Neighborhood Center, just putting that out there. I also want to thank APD. I have seen them pull over like a lot of people on Alliance lately, and I'm glad to see them out doing their job. And I also, like, on a personal note, want to thank them. I hope people don't have the feeling that I had today when I got the email that my son's school was on lockdown. I really just can't explain what that's like, but I talked to the chief, and knowing that they were on it, and my son said that they were there within like seconds. But it's really horrifying thing, like, even if you know that it's not true, just having it out there was one of the worst minute of my life. So thank you to APD. And just had my HWMA meeting. I wanted that to be last, but that's all right. I forgot that HWMA, I had my HWMA meeting this week. All of our jurisdictions agreed that it would be really great to have Director Keller Heckman come and give our councils updates on SB 1383, organics waste processing. So I'd love to request to get that on the agenda in the next couple meetings, so we could get a presentation on that, because it's been taking a really long time, and I'm sure people are really interested in how that's going. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman White?
That does sound really scary. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I attended a Redwood Region Yes, I attended a Redwood Region Economic Development Loan Committee meeting today. I will be attending the Centro de Pueblo Immigration Workshop this Saturday on the 22nd. Just a reminder to get involved in the Tsunami Preparedness Week for through the 29th. You can go to the Redwood Coast Tsunami Working Group website for more information, or you can go to the CUNAComesTogether.com for information. Lots of links there. CUNA will be hosting a free What's Cooking culinary class with guest chef Brett Schuler. That's free to everyone. That's on Friday the 28th, so give a big shout out to Brett, because he's bringing his skills pro bono to the community, and all are welcome. Monday we'll be hosting a 8-week food demo class in partnership with UC Davis Center of Cooperatives. It's free to the community. It's at 5. It'll be an 8-week program, and that's at the CUNA Resilient Hub at 4700 Valley East. That's all I've got.
Okay. Well, thank you. I thought some of the other things that happened at Civic Well, they talked about insurance and what's going to happen in the future with insurance, and so I think that's going to be such a big topic because of how many people have been canceled with insurance up in our region, and we have a redwood forest, and it's a forest, that's how it's thought of, and how that's going to impact us. And that was one of the items. And I also thought they brought up LAFCO and how LAFCO and some of the areas in California really need to open up and look at opportunities that could happen, and push forward for some of these to make things work better within the communities. And the other thing is, Councilman White wanted to come but was not able to, so I brought back this for her.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Shirt, socks, candy, agenda, which is important, and I think the agenda you would have enjoyed because there was so much going on about safety, et cetera, for the communities, but which led me to believe there's so much going on about tsunamis, and earthquakes are one of the things for us. I mean, earthquakes cause tsunamis, but we used to have a really heavy-duty program going on in the neighborhoods. So if we had an earthquake, you knew who to call and check on all your neighbors, and you knew which house had all your belongings, where you could go and pick things up, et cetera, because they would have the food stores or whatever you needed. And I don't think that's actually happening anymore in that neighborhood.
Can I add one thing? Because it was cute, because you have your CERTs, which is your community emergency response team, and then they were talking about having what's called a NEST, which is your neighborhood emergency support team. So you can have your NEST within your CERT, which I liked that concept.
And we used to have that. I mean, I can remember in some of the neighborhoods, we had that intergroup. So and they talked about it as far as fires and being able to know who your neighbors were, who's responsible to go and make sure your neighbors are out of their house if there's a fire or a situation, so you know who to check on.
I
So,
did want to mention that the Blue Lake Rancheria Office of Emergency Services is going to be doing always free CERT certification, as well as train the trainer. And also, if you want more information about how to map your neighborhood, you can check in with CUNA, or you can check in with the Red Rancheria. There's all kinds of organizations that are getting on top of this again.
okay, into the NEST program. So I think that's about it. We don't have any future meetings scheduled other than coming to our next council meeting. We have no closed sessions and no closed session reports, and so we're adjourned.